Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump doubling down on his fight for election integrity. He's urging Republicans to pass the Save America Act, which would require citizenship and photo ID for voting. A suspect allegedly involved in the 2012 terror attack on a U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya, has been extradited to the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the individual faces murder, arson, and terrorism charges. The Treasury Department announces its latest sanctions on the Iranian regime. This as U.S. officials take the first steps today toward possible nuclear talks with Iran. Savannah Guthrie's brother speaks out for the first time last night. He says the family wants to talk to whoever may have taken their mother. The U.S. says the end of the New START treaty signals a new nuclear arms era, and is also accusing China of conducting secret nuclear testing. And over in Italy, the Winter Olympics have begun. The opening ceremonies are in progress, with the U.S. sending a number of star athletes ready to represent their country.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. President Trump is doubling down on his administration's fight for free and fair elections. Ahead of a House vote next week, he's urging Republicans to pass the Save America Act. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent, Mari Otsu, at the North Lawn of the White House. Mari, good afternoon.
Don, good afternoon. That's right, and President Trump is indeed doubling down. Last night, he's declaring America's elections, quote, rigged, stolen, and, quote, a laughingstock globally. That's as he's calling on Republicans to pass the Save America Act, which is a bill that calls for all voters to show voter identification and proof of American citizenship. Take a look.
You go to the polls, you show, yes, my name is so-and-so, and I live in the country. I'm here, I can vote. They say, that's not allowed. And no, everyone's trying to figure it out. And they do something to win. You know what it is? They cheat.
That Republicans and Democrats in Congress should pass the Save America Act. This piece of legislation is going to ensure that states are abiding by federal election law by removing non-citizens from their voter rolls. In addition, the Save America Act will require voter ID to vote, and it will require proof of citizenship to register to vote. These are very common sense policies and proposals that 89% of our country agree with. So that's what the president is talking about.
A new Pew Research poll from 2025 does show overwhelming support for voter ID. According to the poll, 71% of Democrats, 95% of Republicans, and 83% of Americans agree. And this latest push from President Trump is coming just a week after FBI agents executed a federal search warrant at Fulton County's elections hub in Georgia. Last week, they seized hundreds of boxes containing original physical ballots from the 2020 election, voter rolls, tabulator tapes from the voting machines there, ballot images, and other records. The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was seen at that elections hub in Georgia last week, which then prompted scrutiny and questions from the media. But President Trump and the White House say that Gabbard's presence was necessary due to the fact that they're currently investigating foreign influence in the 2020 election. Take a look.
I've seen a lot of the media in this room get very caught up with the semantics of why Tulsi Gabbard is there. I will tell you why, and the president agrees with this, because election security is essential to national security. And as the director of national intelligence, it is a part of Ms. Gabbard's role to make sure that American elections are free of foreign interference and that American elections are safe and secure.
But let me ask you this. If China or any of these countries are involved in our elections, that would bring her into it. Look, we have to have honest elections. Yeah. There should be nothing wrong with the fact that they went in, got ballots from a while ago, and they're going to look at them. And now they're going to find out the true winner of that state. Yeah. And you know what? If there was cheating, which there was, but if there was cheating, it should be found, because we can't let it happen.
While President Trump has suggested potential Chinese interference in the 2020 election, a DNI Director Tulsi Gabbard herself says in a letter to Democrats on the Senate and House Intelligence Committees that her role is to ensure U.S. election security, including counterintelligence and foreign and other malign influence and cybersecurity. Don, back to you.
All right, Mari, thank you. A suspect allegedly involved in the 2012 terror attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya, has been extradited to the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said the individual faces murder, arson, and terrorism charges.
Zubair al-Bakash landed at Andrews Air Force Base at 3 a.m. this morning. He is in our custody. He was greeted by Director Patel and U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro. Hillary Clinton famously once said about Benghazi, "What difference at this point does it make?" Well, it makes a difference to Donald Trump. It makes a difference to those families. And 14 years later, it makes a difference to law enforcement who made the difference in this case. Thank you, President Trump, for supporting all of our agencies around the country and around the world. Al-Bakash will now face American justice on American soil.
At least 20 heavily armed terrorists stormed the U.S. consulate compound and set fire to it during the September 11th, 2012 attack. U.S. ambassadors Chris Stevens, State Department employee Sean Smith, and 2 CIA contractors, Glenn Doherty and Tyrone Woods, were killed. Then President Barack Obama and then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton faced scrutiny following the incident. Republicans at the time raised questions about security at the facility, the lack of a military response, and the Obama administration's changing narrative about the circumstances surrounding the attack. 2 other individuals have been convicted and sentenced for their involvement. The U.S. today holding indirect talks with the Iranian regime, with Oman's foreign minister acting as a mediator. Iran's top diplomat said the talks were off to a good start and are set to continue. The Omani foreign minister met separately with U.S. and Iranian delegations. Special envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner led the U.S. envoy. The main goal is to overcome sharp differences over Tehran's nuclear program, but the U.S. wants to expand the talks. Washington's objective is also to discuss Iran's ballistic missiles, support for terrorist groups, and the treatment of the Iranian people. Also today, America's virtual embassy in Iran issued a security alert. It urged U.S. citizens to leave Iran and prepare an exit plan that does not rely on U.S. government help. The warning comes as concerns mount over a possible military confrontation between the 2 countries. Just hours after the talks wrapped up, the U.S. Treasury Department announced its latest sanctions on Iran. The Treasury Department said the sanctions target an international network that facilitates the shipments of Iranian crude oil to communist China. The operations involve millions of barrels of oil and are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Multiple entities and individuals in China, India, and the UAE, as well as several vessels, now face sanctions. The Treasury Department said the Iranian regime uses its oil revenues to fund its nuclear program, destabilizing activities and regional terrorist groups. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent added, quote, "The United States is committed to aggressively targeting any attempt by Iran to secure funding for these malign activities." To discuss the U.S. strategy for Iran, we're bringing in foreign policy analyst Bart Marcoy. He's a former career diplomat and Energy Department official, also a news commentator creating daily bite-sized news analysis called A Minute with Bart. So Bart, good afternoon to you. Now, the Iranian media said the summit ended with a willingness to continue, and we know the U.S. is demanding, no nuclear for Iran and also limits on its ballistic missile program, while Iran, on the other hand, wants to continue enriching uranium. Do you see any compromise here being made over these issues?
No, not at all, because the Iranians are playing a false game. The fact that they won't even engage on the issues that matter to the United States in addition to the nuclear issue tells you that they're negotiating in bad faith. They're not negotiating, they're just stalling. The U.S. insisted on discussing proxies, the Houthis, the Hezbollah, Hamas. the proxies that Iranians use around the world to carry out their terrorist activities. They wanted to talk about, as you mentioned, ballistic missiles. They wanted to talk about the treatment of the Iranian people. The Iranians said, no, just nuclear things. So they haven't even agreed to the scope yet. And Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi left and said, yeah, it went great. Everything is fine. And he knows very well it didn't go well. He's just trying to set up an international narrative that says, hey, we were negotiating, the US attacked us.
Okay, so you're saying Iran is not going to compromise, but is it true or is it not true that Iran is going into these talks from a weaker position than normal? Because, given the state of its economy and internal issues like the protests.
Yes, they're weaker than they've ever been. It's their currency is running at 1.5 million, I think it's reals, to the dollar. You cannot sustain an economy like that. The reason people are demonstrating in the streets, or were until they were murdered, they figured, we're going to die quickly or slowly. We may as well die quickly as we try to fight for our freedom. They have no air defense. Israel destroyed their air defense systematically last year. They don't have nuclear weapons anymore. They know that their hardened bunkers are not doing them any good anymore. And they know that between Israel and the United States, we know where each one of them is. We know where they're living. We know where their families live. We know where everything they care about is. And they are negotiating from a position of complete weakness.
Okay, can you talk to us about the stakes here? President Trump has said, if a deal is not reached, the next attack will be far worse. And the Iranian leader said that a U.S. attack on Iran will stoke a regional war. So what are the stakes here? Is Iran bluffing?
I don't think Iran is bluffing. I think that they have a lot of aces up their sleeve. Most of them involve terrorist activities, terrorist sleeper cells. They have people embedded in countries all over the world. They have people embedded right here in the United States that they expect to activate. But what they're forgetting, and those things are very serious. Please don't think I'm underplaying their capabilities. But what they're forgetting is that those sleeper cells, if the sleeper cells see the head of the snake cut off and they see that the regime has been destroyed, their own fanaticism may wane a little bit, and their dedication to their cause may slacken a little bit, and they may be less willing to carry out their assignments that they may have received 3 years ago, or 18 months or 10 years ago. Russia had the same problem with their sleeper agents. Many of their sleeper agents came here and decided that they liked the United States better. They liked life here better. And when Mother Russia called on them to carry out some act of sabotage or espionage, they quietly just disappeared.
Okay, but the Trump administration has already bombed 3 major Iranian nuclear sites, setting back Iran's nuclear program by up to 2 years, according to the Pentagon. What are the actual risks of Iran having a nuclear weapon?
Oh, they're immense, because these are people who believe that only a complete destruction of Israel and of all of Israel's allies and of Western civilization will bring about the glorious end of the world and the return of the hidden imam. It's a messianic kind of figure. And so if they destroy everything, they don't fear being destroyed in the process, or reciprocally, because this is part of a messianic imperative that they have to fulfill. So they, uniquely almost among all the people of the world, they are the most dangerous regime to have a nuclear weapon. Even the North Koreans have some rational fear of reciprocity.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You said earlier that Iran will not compromise. So, I mean, that leads me to think potentially a deal may not happen. And President Trump says if there is no deal, then he's going to attack, and the attack will be far worse. And you're saying that Iran is not bluffing. So if we put this together, where are we headed, Bart?
It certainly looks like we're headed toward war. As a diplomat, I have to say that sometimes when you're negotiating with a particularly recalcitrant opponent, they have to look into the brink. They have to look over the brink of and into the abyss to decide. It's a gut check. Are you really willing to die? Are you really willing to see all your power evaporate, all your wealth, all your control, everything you've built up over the last 40 years, 45 years? Are you willing to see that just evaporate in a flash? Or will you be reasonable and finally give up your terrorist way of life? I don't know. I think that President Trump will keep his word. I think that he will exercise extreme patience, as he has already. Many people are very frustrated with him for having waited this long, but he is making it clear that what he really wants is peace. But a lasting peace cannot be achieved when you have an opponent, an enemy that is sworn to your destruction. And if he will not back down, that enemy will not back down from destroying you, then you have to destroy that enemy if you want peace. It's as ancient as human life on the earth.
Okay, just finally, can you reiterate that point of what the U.S. wants for Iran? What is the end game for Iran? You said peace. Can you elaborate a bit more? Does Trump want new leadership as well? He has said it needs new leadership.
Yeah, I think it does need new leadership, but he would do with Iran as he's doing with Venezuela. All the bad guys in Venezuela are still there, except for Maduro and his wife. The people in charge are as bad as Maduro, but as long as they do what the United States wants them to do, Trump will allow them to stay. It's a new. What he wants is a new pattern of behavior. He wants them to stop supporting terrorism all around the world, stop funding every bad program in the United States and in Western Europe, stop supporting their terrorist proxies, give up once and for all their nuclear program, their nuclear project, and their ballistic missiles, and stop murdering their own citizens. I don't see this current leadership ever acceding to those demands. And, you know, if I may say, you didn't ask, but if I may say, there's a serious implication for China in all of this. If you have a minute, I'll go into that.
Please, let's hear what you have to say on China.
So one of the things that Iran always threatens is that they will shut down the Strait of Hormuz, that they will, block it, that they'll keep all shipping out of it. Well, China gets nearly 80% of its oil. It comes through the Strait of Hormuz. It gets 20% from Iran and another probably 30 or 40% from Iraq and Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Oman. If Iran gets into a war and they shut down the Strait of Hormuz, it's China that will suffer more than anybody else in the world. They will have their oil supply from everywhere except Russia and Malaysia and Brazil cut off. So that's going to make the Iranians very hesitant to carry out some of their more extreme threats. And China has been a big backer of Iran. And of course, if the Iranian regime changes, that's going to make the Chinese have to pay market price for their oil from Iran instead of buying smuggled oil at a discount. So there's some serious calculation going on there with China. And I suspect somebody in the Trump administration has a back channel to China and is discussing this with them as well.
Right. That is a great point you made there about China. Bart, well, thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you, Don. I hope you have a great afternoon and evening.
You as well. Coming up, Savannah Guthrie's brother speaks out for the first time last night. He says the family wants to talk to whoever may have taken their mother. Stay tuned.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3. Eat 2 a day and you'll feel brand new.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special T-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did.
Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor during February Heart Month, and your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
See, Smokey thinks I'm funny.
The search for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of NBC anchor Savannah Guthrie, is intensifying. There has been no sign that any captors have tried to contact the family, and authorities are stepping up the investigation. Here's the latest.
And we're going to start today by announcing...
The FBI has announced a $50,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of Nancy Guthrie, or the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance. Investigators say they believe 84-year-old Guthrie is alive, even though there has been no public response from possible captors, and no suspect has been identified. In a video posted on social media, her son Cameron pleaded for someone to reach out directly to the family.
Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward.
Days after Nancy Guthrie's disappearance on January 31st, several media outlets said they received letters demanding ransom. An FBI agent said the first deadline passed at 5 p.m. Thursday. He said the letters contained a second deadline for Monday. However, he said no one has made any attempt to contact the family directly, even after they put out a plea on social media.
I think it's pretty clear the family wants to be contacted. They know time is of the essence, and if those that may have Nancy are watching this, the family is ready to talk, get proof of life. In a normal kidnapping case, there would be contact by now trying to discuss that.
Authorities arrested a California man yesterday who allegedly sent texts to the family with false ransom demands. The FBI is not linking these texts to the ransom letters. The local sheriff confirmed blood found near the entrance of the Arizona home did come from Guthrie, but he said authorities are continuing to assume she is still alive.
We operate from a position that until we know she's out there, she's alive, and we're going to continue thinking that way until we find her.
The sheriff said the night Guthrie went missing, her doorbell camera disconnected. He said the software detected a person, but no video is available. He also said Guthrie's pacemaker app shows it was disconnected from her phone. The sheriff said Guthrie was dependent on daily medication. Authorities are concerned that going this long without medication could prove fatal. President Trump says he has spoken to Savannah Guthrie and directed all federal law enforcement to assist in the investigation. The FBI says Director Kash Patel is being briefed about the situation several times a day.
On Capitol Hill, the debate around ICE funding is heating up. Democrats doubling down on demands that Republicans says are unrealistic. Could another partial government shutdown be on the horizon? NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
The battle over ICE funding heating up as the clock ticks on.
The number one reform that we need are no more sanctuary cities and to have local leaders cooperate with federal officials.
It's got to be strong, it's got to be tough, it's got to rein in ICE in very serious ways and end the violence.
Days ago, senators gave themselves 2 weeks to find common ground on ICE changes. Democrats have laid out several demands publicly.
Wear identifying badges, do not wear masks. When they go to someone's door to try and get into a home, they use a judicial warrant, and they don't conduct random roving patrols or engage in racial profiling.
But with just 1 week before DHS funding expires, Republicans say Democrats may have made their demands public, but aren't coming to the table for talks.
Yet we heard nothing. And so last night, even after our attempts to have that conversation, we then yet once again see a list of demands grow from 3 to 10 without any communication. Look, that's not the way good faith negotiations begin or end.
With no closed-door talks ongoing, a bipartisan deal looks unlikely. Senate Leader John Thune describes Democrats' demands as unrealistic.
This is not a blank check situation where Republicans just agree to a list of Democrat demands. But as of right now, we aren't anywhere close to having any sort of an agreement that would enable us to fund the Department of Homeland Security. And so, Mr. President, I would hope that the Democrats will come to the table.
The leader now readying another short-term extension for DHS funds. Even if the DHS funding runs out, Republicans point out that ICE will still be funded longer than other agencies.
What they're essentially endorsing is defunding FEMA and defunding TSA, because the ICE operation money, the detention facilities, the money for the border walls, all been front-loaded in the working families tax cut from last summer. That's just a reality. So they don't have leverage here.
The White House now pushing a demand of their own. The president wants lawmakers to add to the next funding bill the SAVE Act, which aims to require voter ID and reduce voter fraud in federal elections.
The SAVE Act directs states to remove non-citizens from their voter rolls, and we know in states across the country the president is right.
It's a request Democrats have rejected. The president on Thursday called for all Republicans to fight for voter ID, eliminating non-citizen voting, and to end mail ballots. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
A federal judge is temporarily blocking Homeland Security from using taxpayer data for immigration enforcement. U.S. District Judge Indira Tawani ruled yesterday that a cooperation agreement allowing the IRS to share taxpayer information with DHS and ICE likely violates federal law. The case was brought by several Massachusetts community groups. The injunction will remain in place while litigation continues. The ruling adds to a growing split among federal courts over whether IRS data can be used in immigration enforcement. U.S. lawmakers sound the alarm on the Chinese Communist Party, saying the CCP doesn't just target the federal government, it also targets states, cities, schools, and families in the U.S. We discuss this after the break.
A performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for.
once in your lifetime. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week. Still couldn't pay the bills. Skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. You know, I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay," and I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
Might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
A top Russian general was shot in his Moscow apartment building today. Russia's foreign minister accused Ukraine of involvement in what he called an attempted assassination. Officials say the high-ranking officer is the deputy head of the GRU, Russia's military intelligence arm. An unidentified gunman fired several shots and fled the scene. The 64-year-old was rushed to the hospital in serious condition. The shooting follows a series of assassination attempts Russia has blamed on Ukraine. Since the start of the war in 2022, Ukrainian military intelligence has claimed responsibility for assassinating several senior Russian officers.
I can reveal that the U.S. government is aware that China has conducted nuclear explosive tests, including preparing for tests with designated yields in the hundreds of tons. The PLA sought to conceal testing by obfuscating the nuclear explosions because it recognized these tests violate test ban commitments. China has used decoupling, a method to decrease the effectiveness of seismic monitoring to hide their activities from the world. China conducted 1 such yield-producing nuclear test on June 22nd of 2020. I should add that exactly 0 Chinese nuclear weapons were covered by New START. And as we sit here today, China's entire nuclear arsenal has no limits, no transparency, no declarations, and no controls.
The Undersecretary restated that projections that China will have over 1,000 nuclear warheads in the next 4 years. He also said Russia is supporting this buildup by helping China develop weapons-grade fission material. Diplomats at the conference said the U.S. allegations were new and concerning. Amid news of the China-linked suspected biolab in Vegas, Florida, unveiled a new China prevention unit that will combat threats posed by the Chinese Communist Party. to Florida consumers. Joining us to discuss the Chinese Communist Party's United Front strategy within the U.S. is Taylor Hathorn, visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Center for American Safety and Security. Taylor, good afternoon and happy Friday to you. So the Congressional CCP Select Committee commented on Florida's new unit, saying the CCP doesn't just target the federal government, that it also targets our states, cities, schools, and families. What is your initial reaction to this?
I think the state of Florida is really wise and very prudent in setting up this committee and setting up this oversight, because the reality is that China's playbook instructs them to get into every fabric of our society and at every level be effective. And unfortunately, they are effective in many ways. Look at some of the influence that the CCP has had just over our education system. So I think it's good that governors are paying attention. I mean, our weakest points of infrastructure in the United States when it comes to cybersecurity are really our local and our state municipalities. That is really where Chinese hackers and CCP hackers and any adversarial hackers can get into our networks and start working their way up the chain. It's a lot harder to break into the DoD network than it is a local municipality that has contracts that they work with DoD on. And so I think that the state of Florida is very wise to do this.
Okay, so you bring up the CCP's influence. The Jamestown Foundation says it will be releasing a new report that maps out how more than 2,000 CCP-linked organizations in the country and others are involved in, quote, political influence, technology transfer, transnational repression, and voter mobilization. So can you just talk to us about this web of influence the CCP uses? What is the scope?
I was talking to some friends about this last night that, if you would have said any of these things that we're saying today 5 years ago, you would have been called a conspiracy theorist because, all of this sounds just so whimsical that it feels made up like it's in a movie. But the reality is that this is reality. This is China's playbook. The segment that you had prior to this was talking about China's nuclear arsenal. I'm worried about that, but I am so much more worried about the mental warfare campaign that the CCP inflicts upon the United States and, truthfully, the rest of the world in pitting our adversaries against each other. There is a reason that there were so many Confucius Institutes across the United States, and they got outlawed because we saw a direct effect of what was happening in our universities and in our education system with having the CCP influence on our students, and it needed to stop, and I'm glad that it did.
So what is the CCP's goal here with students? What is the long-term strategy here? And talk to us about, Chinese students and scholars associations in the U.S.
So really, there are two methodologies that you can have in any kind of mental warfare. And really, this is mental warfare, right? So you've got your overt strategies and you have your covert strategies. And really what China is super good at is the covert strategies. If they were really focusing on the overt strategies, you wouldn't have Prime Minister Carney, in Canada talking about how they wanted to ally and align themselves with China moving forward with this values-based realignment that he talked about in Davos not too long ago. And so really you're looking at these covert strategies and covert tactics. So what does that look like? It looks like mental manipulation. Our society, regrettably, is incredibly susceptible to influence from the outside world. Our youth, because of their involvement on social media, on web platforms where they have access to information all around the world, are incredibly susceptible to this influence. I wrote a series of articles for Independent Women at the start of last New Year about the TikTok ban. And, several of my friends are like, man, Taylor, you need to get over it. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of an influence. What a lot of people didn't realize is that the algorithms for TikTok in China, students were vastly rewarded for looking up videos and watching videos and promoting their algorithms focused on engineering, education, medicine, reading, literature. They were promoted and rewarded for that, while the same algorithms in the United States existed for United States students. They were promoted for doing TikTok dances and Tide Pod challenges, and their ratings went up for that. So that is just one example of a covert strategy that has direct effects on the mental capacity, truthfully, and on the educational abilities of our students.
Right, and I just want to add to that, the younger generation are the people that's going to eventually run this country, the United States, and that's very important as well. I also wanted to bring up today the CCP's transnational repression. So the attacks on the New York-based Shenyang Performing Arts Group, as an example. The CCP has engaged in misinformation operations using American platforms to misrepresent Shenyang publicly, and this is a company that in part exposes the human rights abuses happening in China. Can you just talk to us about the extent of influence the CCP has on our media? What are the broader implications of this, the CCP carrying out this repression in the United States?
I mean, you guys actually have a really good article or magazine piece in it that I encourage everyone to read. And if you have the link to that, I encourage your team to post it. But this is just basic gaslighting 101, right? This group exists to expose the horrors that happen inside of China, inflicted by the CCP. And what does China come out and do? They say they're CCP-oriented brand so that people don't want to watch it, so that they don't want to see it. So China has no problem calling out the atrocities of the CCP, right? They just do a really good job of delineating the difference between the CCP and Beijing. They're like, that isn't us, that's them, that's this group. And it is a typical, very typical gaslighting tactic of an adversary to make you think that things really aren't as bad as they are when they are.
Okay, so how do we stop this transnational repression by the CCP?
First and foremost, you have to call a spade a spade. You have to call it out when you see it. I wrote an article recently about the number of students that come into the United States from China to study here, and the fact that they are focusing on engineering fields, and they're focusing on AI fields, and they are getting that training in the United States and taking it back to China. Economic influence or economic espionage cases committed by Chinese nationals have gone up 1,300% in the last decade. I mean, you've got trade theft secret cases happening in the United States, 60% are which are attributed to the CCP. And so the data is there and it shows it. It shows that we are educating these students and employing these students, and they're taking what they're learning here and they're using it against us in the United States. I need to be very clear that I am not vilifying all Chinese students. I do not think that is a problem here, but we need to create a better awareness pipeline to understand where these students' allegiance are. And I think the reality is people don't understand that when many of these students come here from China, they are given a very strict out processing from China interview and an in processing interview every single time they come home to make sure that they have not been too heavily influenced by the United States. To date, there are nearly 250,000 Chinese students studying at universities inside of the United States, and we have less than 1,000 American students studying inside of China. And China has great universities too, so it makes you wonder why that tactic, why is that being implemented and not the other way around if it really was a shared partnership among education institutions.
Okay, Taylor, just final question here. Taking a step back, looking more broadly here, how do you think the U.S. government needs to treat this problem, this CCP United Front work in the United States?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, you've got to be able to call it out. I think the CCP Select Committee is doing a good job with a lot of this work. I think that, independent journalists need to be calling out these situations. I mean, the fact that the biolabs that you mentioned at the beginning of this episode, that's not the first one that this has happened in, right? Like that's happened several times under the Biden administration, and the media was complicit in covering it up. Why would they be complicit in covering it up? I really encourage everyone to look at the funding mechanisms of some of these major news networks and see where their tiebacks to the CCP are. Alex Marlow has a really good book about this. I believe it's called Breaking the News, and I encourage everyone to read it, that talks a lot about why the media, legacy national media, is often complicit in these things. And just like with anything, it usually follows the money. So I think people just need to be educated. And this does not mean be racist, right? This does not mean look at everything everything with Chinese influence and think that's bad. That is absolutely inappropriate and not the way to handle this. But you need to be able to look at the data and look at reality. Look at the FBI scorecard sheets. Look at the House Oversight Committee scorecard sheets. Look at all of these threat fact books and do your research and understand why this is an issue, why China is an issue with us. And the last thing that I want to say is I want to remind people just how heavily involved the CCP has been in the United States fentanyl crisis in the last 10 years. They have been directly supplying not only the money laundering to make sure that the cartels are able to commit major atrocities leading to hundreds of thousands of American deaths, but they're also providing the precursor chemicals to be able to make these drugs and to make this fentanyl and to be able to have the cartels transported across the border. So it's not just the covert stuff that is endangering and risking American lives, it's the overt stuff too.
And you know, we often talk to a guest, Casey Fleming. I don't know if you've seen him on our program before, but he says the CCP is waging a hybrid unrestricted warfare on the United States. He says, and the United States has not woken up to that just yet. Okay, I think we can leave it there for this week, Taylor. Thank you so much for your comments, as always.
Thanks, Don.
2 Democratic senators are urging the Pentagon to review SpaceX. The move comes amid allegations that Chinese investors may have acquired stakes in the company. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Andy Kim sent a letter to War Secretary Pete Hegseth. They cited media reports and court testimony that suggests Chinese-linked funds were routed through offshore entities to buy SpaceX shares. SpaceX is a major Defense Department contractor. The company launches military and intelligence satellites and operates the Starlink communications network used by the Pentagon. The senators warned that any Chinese ownership could pose national security risks. They've asked the Pentagon to disclose any Chinese investment and outline steps to address potential security concerns. EU regulators have charged TikTok with violating online content rules over addictive features like infinite scroll and autoplay. The company could face fines of up to 6% of ByteDance's global turnover if changes aren't made.
The measures that TikTok has in place are simply not enough. Screen time management and parental controls are not properly working on TikTok. TikTok did not properly assess how its addictive features can harm users, and they did not implement effective measures to mitigate such risks.
The Commission set out its charges after a year-long investigation under the Digital Services Act. The charges focus on the app's addictive design, including infinite scroll, autoplay, and push notifications. EU regulators told the firm to change TikTok's build or risk a fine. The penalty could reach as much as 6% of owner ByteDance's global turnover. TikTok criticized the changes, or the charges, Friday and called the findings against it false and meritless. The EU regulator said TikTok didn't adequately address how these features could harm the physical and mental well-being of its users. It further accused TikTok of ignoring indicators of compulsive use of the app and said it hasn't brought in reasonable measures like screen time management tools and parental controls tools to prevent risks. The Winter Olympics have begun. The opening ceremonies are in progress, with the U.S. sending a number of star athletes ready to represent their country. Stay tuned for more after this break.
Hi, I'm Jane Seymour, and I spent years on TV playing a doctor. But I learned about the heartbreaking reality of heart disease and stroke when they touched my own life. My father nearly died before having a quadruple bypass and valve replacement that saved him. And my mom, who was my inspiration, suffered a stroke that took away her speech, her ability to move, and ultimately her life. To see someone so vibrant, so positive, who'd survived so much in life, be debilitated by a stroke, it was devastating. And also a wake-up call. And that's why I'm so passionate about supporting the American Heart Association. They're doing more every day to stop needless deaths. But they simply can't do their life-saving work without you. So please call now or go to helpheart.org. And for only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your donation will go to work to do amazing things, like fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I hope that you'll open your heart right now and join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. Give $19 a month and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can proudly wear to show that you're part of a community of monthly donors who are helping save lives. A healthy heart, it's the spirit of life. It makes it possible to do the things that you love, to spend time with your friends and family and fulfill your life's dreams. But so many won't have that chance. Heart disease is America's #1 killer and the #1 killer of women. And that's why I'll do whatever I can to make sure others don't die from heart disease before their time. So please join me. Call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org. Donate this Heart Month and your first month's gift will be matched.
We come from a long line of farmers, and there's a sense of pride with being part of these multi-generational businesses. But there's also a significant amount of pressure. My senior year of high school, my dad made the decision that this world no longer needed him in it. I don't know if he was overwhelmed by the bills and checks that weren't going to be coming in because of the strawberries dying off, but it breaks my heart that my dad made a permanent decision for a temporary issue. Don't feel like you have to go through it alone.
Farmers have to take care of their physical and their mental health, because what's a farm without a farmer?
In the mornings, that's my time. Watching the sun come up, I can have a cup of coffee and exercise if I want to. It helps me start the day with a sense of gratitude.
Yay!
Every day is a new opportunity. Don't forget to check in on yourself. Love, your mind.
The U.S. military says it carried out another lethal strike on a drug boat in the Eastern Pacific. Southern Command released a video showing the boat moving before being struck by what it described as a lethal kinetic strike. Southcom said intelligence confirmed the vessel was moving along known drug trafficking routes in the Eastern Pacific and was engaged in narco-trafficking operations. The military said 2 people were killed in the strike and no U.S. forces were injured. This is the second drug boat strike this year, following more than 30 strikes carried out last year. The opening ceremonies for this year's Winter Games are going on right now. This year's Winter Olympics are dually hosted by Milan and Cortina, 2 towns over in northern Italy. Team USA sent more than 200 athletes there. It's their largest delegation ever. Among some of the well-known names are skiers Lindsey Vonn and Michaela Schifrin. Vonn enters despite a major knee injury, while Schifrin looks for redemption after getting shut out in the 2022 Games. Meanwhile, in snowboarding, the U.S. boasts 2-time gold winner Chloe Kim. Kim enters the competition coming off a major shoulder injury suffered just last month. And finally, the men's hockey competition will feature NHL players for the first time since 2014. Team USA men's team hasn't medaled since 2010. While the women's side looks for their 8th straight medal. Vice President J.D. Vance met with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni today in Milan, hours ahead of the opening ceremony for the Winter Olympics. Vance said he was thrilled to be in the country for the Games and looked forward to discussing a range of topics.
It's so good to see you and your team, and great to be back in your beautiful country. We love Italy, we love the Italian people, and as you said, we have a lot of great relationships, we have a lot of great economic connections and partnerships, and I think it's you guys have done an amazing job with the Olympic Games. The city looks beautiful.
In that last time I saw you in Rome, it was for the new Pope.
That's right.
And today we meet again for the Olympic Games. It is 2 events that tell about values that keep together Italy and the US, Europe and the US, the Western civilization.
Meloni added that the Winter Olympics were a welcome opportunity for the 2 allies to meet and discuss bilateral issues. Vance arrived in Italy yesterday with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The Vice President and Secretary of State are expected to attend the opening ceremony tonight. Michelin-starred restaurant in London is serving the most important meal of the day, but for a price. The establishment is giving breakfast an upscale twist and a drink pairing to go with it. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the menu.
The Pavillon restaurant in the Parkland Four Seasons Hotel is giving breakfast a serious upgrade. Assistant restaurant manager Roberto Sidu says breakfast is often overlooked. The menu hopes to remedy that.
We wanted to bring something
something more to it. So every dish that's presented to you is carefully explained. It's been also paired with a lovely non-alcoholic drink to go with that. And so it should be an experience of the senses.
Recently featured items include Pavillon's lobster croast, a croissant toast topped with lobster, arugula, and shaved Parmesan. The tasting menu also includes favorites like French toast. Each course is paired with a non-alcoholic drink. Pavillon senior sous chef Nicolas Boussy reiterates a common saying.
It's the very most important meal of the day. So, and we take also a joy in delighting our guests from the very first step in the morning, and every detail matters.
Food critic Henry Southend is a regular at London's tasting menu restaurants. His Instagram account, I Am Henry Southend, has 200,000 followers.
I think it's nice just to see things different. I've really enjoyed it. I'm actually not usually a breakfast eater, but making an event of the morning and so you can go out into London afterwards having felt like you've had a real experience. It's great.
Diners can also choose from a variety of pastries. Natalie Bigby-Berry approves of the Danish.
So I'm Danish myself. You might have heard that we're a bit famous for our pastries, and I had the lovely opportunity to try this beautiful Danish pastry this morning, a bit of poached pear and blueberry in there. I think Denmark would be proud.
Pavillon's menu can be ordered for $95 without drink pairings. The whole 5-course affair runs for $120 every weekend at the restaurant's counter. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
For me personally, this is the best one.
The Secretary of Energy delivers remarks about the reliability of the grid and affordability amid winter storms. He says the focus of the department should be on people, not politics. More news after this break.
大提琴不仅仅是一件乐器，它是有生命、有感情的，需要我们精心的照顾。往往我们一个小小的动作，可能都会对人情绪产生微妙的影响。天音的品牌是福星，我们对于传统的理念很荣幸被神韵艺术团选为指定供应商。时间是酿造音色的不可替代的陪伴。我跟大提琴已经有60多年的友情了，每一把琴都有它自己的个性，熟悉它，才能真正发挥它的潜力。所以，我希望给你的每一把琴，都是首先我所信任的。
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how's sketches? Ready? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You didn't even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutVaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.